Hello, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero with this next tropical update. So, we talked about this, what was it, a couple days ago? Yes, Friday when I did the weekend outlook. We talked about, at that point, Hurricane Isaias. And now we have, it did technically downgrade, but that doesn't mean it's weaker. We have Tropical Storm Isaias. And that is making its impact throughout the entire East Coast, from Florida all the way up right through Maine. And right now, it's starting to make its way into the tri-state region, at least the outer bands of it. So let's start here with the National Hurricane Center. So with the National Hurricane Center, I'm right here looking at where Isaias is, and there is also a little disturbance. We're not going to talk about that just yet, but it is a 40% chance of cyclone formation within the next 48 hours. We're going to spend this entire video talking about Tropical Storm Isaias. So now this is from the 5 p.m. update from today. Let's take a look at a couple things. Let's start with the track here. So let's see, as of 5 p.m., we have maximum sustained wind of 70 miles per hour. That is pretty intense. So a Category 1 hurricane is 74 miles per hour. So it's only 4 miles per hour off from a hurricane. That's really not that much of a difference. So to really think of it as a weaker, because it's not a hurricane, it's a tropical storm, I would disregard that. Because also we have a lot of rain to deal with. And I did mention in my last video, the buoys, the water temperature is really warm. We have through almost until the Delmarva area, 80 plus degree ocean temperature. That means it is warm enough to fuel this system through the entire eastern seaboard until we start getting into, say, New Jersey. So here, we're seeing the cone much narrower. That has a lot to do with forecast confidence, which has gone up. And if you look, when we take a look at the cone, pretty much the entire state of New Jersey is in there. That cone is not where the storm is going to be. So the storm is not going to be that narrow. The eye of the storm is going to be somewhere in here. And because it got much narrower than we had a few days ago, that's because model confidence has come into much better agreement. So that's why the confidence has gone up. And I mention this because when Isaias was in the Caribbean islands, the forecast models struggle when any kind of tropical system is in the Caribbean islands because of all the friction from the land. Once it gets past the Caribbean islands and back into open waters again, right here off the coast of Florida, then it's a little bit easier for the forecast models to kind of pick up what's going on. That's why this cone has become narrower. And we have here in blue, tropical storm warnings throughout the entirety of the East Coast, except once you get into Georgia and Florida, because it's already past Georgia and Florida. And here, hurricane warning. So the hurricane warning doesn't have to be necessarily the strength of the wind. It's a combination of a bunch of factors, including storm surge. And storm surge is definitely one of those aspects of any tropical system that are deadly because of that storm surge. All right, so that's what we're seeing right now with Tropical Storm Isaias. Now, I do also want to bring up the National Hurricane Center forecast for total rainfall. It's right here, U.S. rainfall potential. And you can see this very narrow track of the yellow and the oranges. That wasn't as narrow not too long ago, like yesterday when I was looking. But that yellow is 4 to 6 inches of rain, and the orange is 6 to 10 inches of rain. Think about that. We are not in winter, folks. 6 to 10 inches of snow may be a moderate snowstorm. But here, 6 to 10 inches of rain is devastating. So that's what we're dealing with here, especially in that area. And after that point, once you get past Delmarva a little bit, going into New Jersey, that's where it starts to lose a little bit of strength because it's not pulling from the warmer ocean water. That's the fuel. So here, and when we're going to take a look at the forecast models and the radar and the satellite right now, this is where we are seeing the heaviest precipitation is west of the eye wall. So the eye wall is going to pretty much go straight through the spine of New Jersey, it's looking like. But the heaviest rain is going to be just west of the eye wall. That doesn't mean it's going to be any better. Still, look in this area. Once you're getting into, say, the Hudson Valley, we're seeing the green 2 to 4 inches of rain with locally 4 to 6. And even, where did it say? Right here. Local point maximum rainfall may be higher than shown. So if I draw a point right there, right on the New Jersey-New York border, then we have the green and the yellow. So that's anywhere between 2 and 6 inches of rain. Any local point, they're saying, could be heavier, higher amounts of storm rainfall. So that's what we're seeing from the National Hurricane Center. Now let's start to take a look at what's going on right now. And I want to start with the satellite. So on the satellite here, this is the visible satellite. So it's a little bit on the dark side because the sun is setting as I'm recording this. But we can clearly see right there. There's the tropical storm. And I want to see if I can get a little bit of a closer look in here. There it is. Nice high-resolution satellite. And that is also kind of where we are going to be having a bit of an issue, because when we look at it this way, I don't see any eye. So when I don't see an eye, I would think, oh, we really don't have anything to worry about. So when we're seeing these little pop-up storms, it has a good amount of convection. So that's what we're seeing on the visible. Now, when we switch to this special nighttime microphysics, we can see this dense cloud layer, and look right in there. There's a tiny little bit of an eye. Now, let's take a look at one other that I like with these. Right here. There's all the dense clouds. And we really still don't see an eye at all. But when we take a look at the radar, that's a different story. Here's the radar. Here's the country radar. So there is your eye. On the radar, we have a very well-defined eye. And now here on radar scope, I'm just going to put this in motion. And this is where we're seeing that nice counterclockwise rotation. We're having these tropical storm pop-ups here. Peak wind gust of 48 knots, 55 miles per hour was observed at the Capers nearshore buoy. We have a comment here. Let's see. Broadcast media shared a video on social media of minor flooding on East Bay Street in downtown Charleston. So that's where we're starting to really see these heavy bands come in. And all of this is all the same system. There's a line here. It's kind of just all merging together. So this line of thunderstorms is interacting with Isaias, but we could see a pretty well-defined eye wall. And this is where I was stating before the heaviest rain is west of the eye wall. Well, here we go. There's the eye. There's the heaviest rain that's west of the eye wall. So if Isaias never touches the coast with the eye, as a landfall is considered the eye wall coming on shore. If the eye wall never comes on shore, we're still getting a lot of heavy rain there. So that's what we're seeing with Isaias now. But when we just go a little bit more north here into the tri-state region, there are severe thunderstorms. So we're just going to wait for that to load. We see that little cluster of lightning. And there is our severe thunderstorm. And this is kind of on the outskirts of Tropical Storm Isaias. Because when we look here, All this, it's all related. It may not be exactly the same system, but it's all related. And that is what's coming in for tonight. We're not really going to see the wind, but we're going to start seeing some bands. And like here, the radar is indicating rotation. There's rotation indicated in there. Let me see if it shows shear. It doesn't show shear, but that little sign there is showing rotation detected within that cell. So the potential is there, and that's what we're seeing on the radar here. There's that slight risk going on throughout where Isaias is at the moment. There we go. So there's where the slight risk is coming up. And I would expect that slight risk to keep moving north as the storm keeps moving north. So that's what we're seeing on the radar right now. Now let's start to take a look at some of these forecast models. And I have this broken down into what the mean surface level pressure is showing, basically the precipitation rate over the course of a certain amount of hours, and then the total rainfall accumulation we'll see in a bit. So here on the GFS, on the good old tropical tidbits, we have 0Z Tuesday, which is now 8 p.m. And as that makes its way through, it looks like the eye does make its way onshore. Oh, oops. I was hitting a wrong button. That is not helpful. Anyway. Let's back up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So here, Isaias makes its way onshore, and it stays kind of like in this defined track here on the GFS. And there's the center, right smack dab over New Jersey. And this time is 18Z Tuesday. Now remember, in our last video, I mentioned the GFS was the slowest of all of the forecast models. And that is because the GFS was seeing things a little bit differently than some of the other forecast models. That's why we look at a whole bunch of forecast models. But the agreement has come a little bit closer together. So that is good because we have much more model agreement. And when we have this model agreement, personally, I like that because my confidence level in the forecast goes up. So that's what we're seeing here when we're taking a look at the GFS. It's starting to align with the others. Okay. So that's where the eye wall is going to be going pretty much right up the spine here on the GFS, but the heaviest precipitation is just west of the eye wall. That still means that New York City's right about here. That heavy rain is so close. It's too close for comfort. So I can't distinctly say New York City is going to miss the heavy rain. New York City will definitely see the strong winds because we're still going to be seeing, when we kind of break this down here, and we split that L into 4 quadrants. So I have a vertical line and a horizontal line for the X and Y axis. The strongest winds are always going to be for the northern hemisphere, the front right quadrant, which is going to be right in this area, because we have counterclockwise rotation with wind. So that means we're getting winds coming forward there, and that's going to be in combination with the storm's forward velocity. So we have the velocity of the wind coming around that front right quadrant combined with the velocity of the storm makes the wind stronger in that front right quadrant. And that is exactly where New York City lies. So that's going to be my concern there. And then it pretty much goes in the exact same straight line. It doesn't have anything that is really directing it because, look at this. As it starts to approach New Jersey, there's a high pressure here, just northwest of the Great Lakes. We have the subtropical high that's to the east. So it really doesn't allow Isaias to go anywhere else. That's why the models have become a little bit more in agreement, because we're seeing these two high pressure systems that kind of act like a little channel just for the Isaias to go through. There's no other place for Isaias to go but through that straight line. So that's what we're seeing. So that's on the GFS. Now let's take a look at the Euro here. So on the Euro, it kind of follows the same track. The only difference here is it's especially over the Delmarva area there. The low is a tiny bit more west, but then turns and moves a little bit more east. So the Euro is suggesting a little wobble. And that wobble causes a little bit of concern, because then the core of the rain can move a little bit more east, right over New York City. And we'll look at this a little bit more in depth as well when we zoom into the areas. So that's what the Euro is showing. The Canadian. Now, little discussion here with the Canadian. I know viewers of my channel and viewers of my friend and fellow meteorologist Joe Chaffee know that we don't really like the Canadian because it's not always right. But in situations like this, you always want to look at all of your options. The Canadian may not be the best, but it's still a forecast model that I want to look at. So now, let's take a look at what it's showing. So here, it's still pretty much in line with what we saw on the GFS and the Euro. And it follows pretty much that same track right through Delmarva, going into, especially the eye of Isaias, going through New Jersey. But look at the rain field. It's much bigger. So this is suggesting much more rain. So we're going to talk about the total rainfall in just a minute once we get through the rest of the models here. And timing-wise for this, 18Z, which is 2 p.m. tomorrow, that's where we're going to start to see the wind really kick up around New York City. And then the heavy rain starts to come in Tuesday evening, say between 6 and 8 o'clock. So that's what the Canadian's showing. What was the timing on here? So that is 18Z. Okay, so the timing is pretty good between those. And let's take a look at the GFS. So that is also 18Z. See, the time has gotten much more consistent between all these forecast models, which is increasing my confidence. And apparently it increased the confidence of the meteorologists in the National Hurricane Center as well. Okay. So that's what we're seeing with timing-wise. The heaviest of this is going to be starting at about 2 p.m. And then, that's with the winds, and then the rain starts coming in a few hours later with that heavy wind-driven rain. Now let's take a look at what the icon is showing here. Kind of the same thing. It's going straight through, if you draw a straight line from the Delmarva area through the spine of New Jersey, except the rain looks a little bit tighter towards the eye than it was with some of the other models, but still, the bulk of the heavy rain is west of the eye wall. But that still means the heaviest of the wind, the strongest winds, are going to be the northeast or the front right quadrant of that eye. And the timing on this is also showing about that 18Z, that 2 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday, going through the evening. So the evening commute tomorrow is going to be treacherous. And then 8 p.m. Tuesday, it's still in the area. It's still getting into the suburbs of New York City. So it's still going to be really, really bad tomorrow evening. And then it starts clearing out overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. The winds still kind of stay breezy through Wednesday morning. All right, now the NAM. So let's follow the NAM here. There's those two high pressure systems. And just like a little funnel, it's funneling Tropical Storm Isaias through. There it goes over Delmarva. Right over the spine of New Jersey. And let's take a look at the timing. Because the NAM here goes, every frame is 1 hour. So here's 18Z, that 2 p.m. time frame. The wind's already in. The wind's already started. And then the bulk of the rain starts coming. And the difference here with the NAM is this is showing radar. This is showing, see here, near surface reflectivity, which is simulated radar. The last models, the Icon, the Canadian, the Euro, and the GFS, are all showing some form of precipitation rate, not radar. So like here on the GFS, 6-hour average precipitation rate. On the Icon, 3-hour average precipitation rate. So that's a little bit of a difference. Then going to the NAM is near surface reflectivity, or in other words, simulated radar. So it's showing Tuesday evening is really going to start getting bad. The evening commute for the New York City area, New Jersey, all that tri-state region. And there's your still heavy rain. And then it starts to make its way out. It's just the wind isn't as strong on the backside of Isaias on the NAM here. And then going into Wednesday, yeah, the wind actually starts to calm down a little bit more because it looks like the high pressure here is coming a little bit closer, I think. Actually, no, the high is about the same. But look at the isobars. They're much more close on the Icon than they are on the NAM. So the NAM is suggesting not as strong winds, but I will still say Wednesday, it may be drier, but it's still going to be windy or breezy. All right, now let's take a look at the totals, those rain totals. Okay, so this is the GFS. Oop, and I was hitting the wrong button again. So I'm going to say, let's go back a little bit. Here's Wednesday. So this is what the GFS is showing for the totals of the rain. It's just so close to New York City that purplish white, which is here, this is showing in inches. That's 2 to about just about 6 is where the purple turns to that red, which we're not seeing that red there just yet. So maybe 2 to 5 inches in that core right there. But that's so close to New York City that a wobble of like 30 miles east means that whole thing shifts 30 miles east, and that may mean that New York City is in the heaviest band. Then we have here the Euro, and let's see. And about here is where it stops. So this is showing the band even closer to New York City. So this is Sussex County, Orange County, and a little bit into Rockland County is in the yellow, which is here, a minimum of 4 inches of rain. And like it's showing a number there of 4.7. The darker oranges starting to get into 5 or 6 inches of rain. So that's where just a little wobble here or there is going to make a difference. The rain is still there. The intensity is consistent. But it's just a little bit of a wobble. The Canadian, let's take a look here. Oh, I already went all the way out. Yeah, so there it's showing the heaviest line is still along where the GFS was showing. And still, New York City is going to be right on that cusp of, say, 2 to 4 inches of rain. The icon, it's even closer. It's starting to get again into Rockland County just before New York City there. But most of the northwest of New Jersey is in that band of the heaviest rain. The absolute heaviest is still going into the Virginia area there. That's where the heaviest is still showing on the icon. And then the NAM, let's follow this out. And I think that is as far out as I have to go. Yep. So that's showing a even thinner line, but it's tiny bit more east than the GFS had. So I'm saying that rain is still going to be in the 2 to 4 inch area. So that's going to be pretty intense. And the last thing I want to show you here is the wind. I'm just going to switch all these over. We need dynamics there. 10-meter wind, which is surface. Wait for it to load. Now, this is where the friction kind of comes in. Now, this is sustained wind, not peak wind. So the sustained wind is going to be, it looks like peaking up at about 20 to, say, 25 miles per hour going into New York City there, but along the Jersey Shore and going into the south, actually pretty much all of Long Island here, yellows and reds, that's a sustained 30 to 50 mile per hour winds. It's so close to New York City, and it's just because the coast and the ocean has very little friction compared to the land. But still, if we're talking about, say, again, Sussex County in New Jersey, that means sustained wind of, say, 16 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. That gust can be up there around 30 miles per hour. So that's the NAM. Let's take a look. Ooh, come on. 10-meter wind here. Kind of showing the same thing. The Jersey Shore is getting plus 50 mile per hour winds because that's still that tropical storm strength. Right now, the max sustained wind in Isaias is 70. So right on the coast there, if we're getting, say, 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, that is nothing to really just ignore. That is really bad. You have to take actions to prepare now, tonight. And I'm not going to show every one of them, but I just want to jump to... Where's the NAM? Where's the icon? Oh, that is the icon. There's your GFS. Lower dynamics, 10-meter wind. Wait for that to load. There we go. Same thing. That is showing going into, and this is going to cause so much storm surge too, because you have all this wind pushing that water into New York Harbor and into the Hudson River. So that's going to cause so much flooding around there. And there's that pink that's touching the Jersey Shore. 50 plus. 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. All right, I think I have seen enough. A little bit of a conclusion here to wrap this up. So it looks like we're going to be seeing pretty terrible conditions with Tropical Storm Isaias. And again, just because it's not a hurricane doesn't mean it's weak. The storm surge is bad. The winds, 70 mile per hour, 60, 50 mile per hour winds along the Jersey Shore, Long Island. It's going to cause a lot of issues. It's going to cause power outages from downed trees and power lines. The rain is going to soak that ground and really just make it muddy, like liquidy muddy, and make it easier for trees to topple over. So we may have power outages that last from later in the day Tuesday through Wednesday. So that's something you really, really have to consider. Are you prepared with the groceries, for instance, to last you maybe the rest of the week if you can't get out? Do you have a generator? Do you have gas for the generator? Is that all set? Have you tested the generator? It may be too late right now to really do all the getting gas and groceries, but you can still prepare. Anything that's outside, you want to bring it in if you can or tie it down. In terms of the rain, if you're in a flooding prone area, please make sure you have a flooding evacuation plan. If your house is flooded, do you have a plan to evacuate? That may be needed going into this. And we are still in the middle of a pandemic. COVID-19 is not going away because of a hurricane or a tropical storm. So if you do have to evacuate and go to a shelter, please keep in mind social distancing. Wear a mask. It may not be comfortable. It may be hot and sweaty, but it's safest to wear a mask even if you're in a shelter. So please heed those warnings as you prepare for this tropical storm Isaias to make its way in. Whew. Okay. So that wraps up this tropical update. Please be careful tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go live. I'm going to try and see if I can get my Games and Storms live stream tomorrow. It may have to be earlier than normal if I can go live at all, but I will try and see if I can keep you guys updated. If you made it to the end of this video, I applaud you. Thank you for sticking with this. If you're new to the channel and you're still here, hit that subscribe button below and the little bell icon next to that so you get notified whenever I upload videos like this or I do go live, like I'm going to try and go live tomorrow. All right, be safe, everyone, in both this tropical storm and with the pandemic. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Stay safe again, and I will see you all in the next video.